Are you an HVAC professional looking to set your business apart? Then the Leading HVAC podcast is your go-to resource. I'm Kimon Hines, coach and trainer at SVE. And in this podcast, we'll share stories of success and struggle from leaders in the HVAC industry. You'll hear from experienced executives, managers, and innovators, providing you with the hard-earned insights from their journeys. These insights will equip you with the knowledge you need to navigate challenges and truly lead in the ever-evolving HVAC world. Welcome to this episode, and I'm super excited today to be joined by Dana Marr. Dana is the CEO of Wooldridge. So Dana, first of all, welcome to the Leading HVAC podcast.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
Awesome. Well, Dana, I want you to tell our viewers, our listeners, who you are. So give us a little bit about what you're doing, where you are. I know I mentioned you're the CEO, but just tell us a little bit more.
Well, I'm Dana Marr. I'm CEO of Wooldridge Heating Air Electrical in Lynchburg, Virginia. Second generation. Parents started the company. And so currently I'm running the company along with a great team. We've got about 75 to 80 employees. And got a great management team running the day-to-day now. So I'm able to work on the business and not as much in the business. So that's a great feeling to be where we're at.
That's awesome. I know there are a lot of people who are listening and viewing this podcast who want to be in the position that you're in. And we're going to talk today about how they can get to that position as we go through some of the questions in this episode. So
Okay.
Dana, you kind of alluded to this already, but kind of really just dig into this. Why did you get into the HVAC business and how long have you been in it?
Well, I was actually officially on payroll in 1986. So I celebrated my 38th year in June this year with the company. Of course, worked part-time just for room and board with my parents before that. So it's probably around 40 years I started. Didn't plan to get into the HVAC business. It all kind of just fell into place. I graduated high school in June of 1989. And of course, in June 1989, my dad's HVAC dispatcher quit, which is the story. Dispatchers quit in June. That's panic mode. That's busy time. So Dad said, "You're coming to work for me. You're going to be an HVAC dispatcher, at least for the summer." So I did what my father said, and I was the HVAC dispatcher. And that was in June of 1989. And so that's where I started. And never left. I did quit a couple times, but he didn't let me leave. So this is the only job I've ever had, the only company I've ever worked for. And I just started at the bottom and worked my way up. Did dispatcher for a long time because we were a small company, about 15 employees at that time. So I wore many hats, answered the phone, dispatch tech, did accounts receivable, even unloaded equipment when the equipment truck came to the shop. So did a lot of things. And in hindsight, the position I'm in now, I've basically worked in every position other than on a truck. So it's helped me know the knowledge to be able to support the team I have now. However, I have been out on the job site. We do a lot of community projects. So I've crawled in crawl spaces and been out with the guys and done projects like that too. So that's been a lot of fun. So I've touched, I think, every position here.
Yeah, that's cool. And so you have a perspective that allows you to know every role, how everyone functions, and how to make everyone on the team better.
That's right. And know what they're supposed to be doing and not go pull wool over my eyes because I know enough to manage it. I don't have to do it every day or know everything, but I know enough to be able to assist and manage and keep it headed in the right direction and have that responsibility there.
Awesome. So Dana, with such a, wide background, what are some of the key lessons that you've learned about leadership in the HVAC industry through, that diverse background?
Well, it was a while before I actually was in a leadership position, but what I observed was how other leaders were treating people. So I learned a lot of what to do and what not to do. I saw how people responded. So that was kind of on the job, witnessing things and how to mentor people and encourage them and those behaviors. And the golden rule, treat people like you want to be treated. My go-to leadership book when I got in a formal leadership role was first in the office. My mom was backing out, so I was office manager. That was my first leadership role. So I think I was over 4 or 5 people in the beginning. And I read the John Maxwell book, Steps to Leadership. And that's still my go-to. That's my foundation for leadership, to build a team so that nobody knows who the boss is, make them stronger So they're in front of you and you're behind them, not use the entitlement in leadership and, support your team, care about your team, but yet hold them accountable and finding that balance.
Yeah. You mentioned, accountability, empowering your team and other, the other qualities from the John Maxwell principles. Which one of those has been most challenging for you to navigate in your role as a leader?
Challenging for me is my work ethic. I was raised to work hard, and some people are more laid back at work, like to have fun, and that accountability was a challenge for me to be able to balance that, to hold them accountable for the work, but not make it a miserable culture. Because you do have to have fun. You have to enjoy what you're doing. You have to enjoy the people around you. We have to mix in fun. We mix in the contest. We do the cookout and still get the job done. So that was probably the biggest challenge is those type of personalities is balancing that work and fun and taking care of that customer and answering that phone. And then we have fun. Lately, the challenge has been absenteeism. So we've had to get creative with that. So that's been my latest challenge.
Yeah. It sounds like you've seen a lot of change. You said 38 years, right, in the industry. So in a couple of years, it'll be 40 years. That'll be a big celebration, right, Dana? What have been some of the biggest changes, though, you've seen in the industry over these 38, almost 40 years now?
Everything from, equipment changes, Freon changes on that side of it, keeping up with that, keeping up with the training, making sure our lab has the most recent for that. Inside is keeping up with software, updating our software, being creative with memberships and pricing and staying in front of that and being innovative to stay in front of our competitors. We have so much competition in this area and just setting ourselves apart. When I started working here with my dad, we had 4 heat and air companies in Lynchburg, and we all were diverse. We had our own niches. One was like new construction, one was commercial. We were residential. It was friendly. We helped each other. And now the competition is very challenging. So we're constantly being innovative to stay ahead of that, and creative and building value in Wooldridge and professionalism.
Now so this is part of the interview that I'm excited to get to, which is to hear about this transition. Because you mentioned that the company was started by your dad and you started working there. Now, at what point do you start having the conversation about, hey, Dana, I want you to take over this? And how does kind of talk us through the succession plan and how that was sort of put into action?
Well, it was started in 1975. The next year will be 50 years in business. And like I said, I joined in 89. And I believe it was probably in the late 90s, early 2000s that Dad started thinking about, I need a continuation plan. I need an exit. I don't want the company to go away. I've worked so hard to build this. He said it was like a child, I've grown it and harvested it, and I don't want it to die just when I leave. So I've got to come up with something. And I remember him calling me to his house, and we were sitting at the dining room table, and he said, I got to start thinking about the company and what we're going to do and what direction. And he said, do you see yourself running this company and taking it over? And I told him, I said, I would love to see it continue, but I don't feel like I could individually do it myself. I said, I can't fix a heat pump or install a heat pump if I wanted to. I said, I'd really like for you to pick some of our key long-term people, and let's pick a couple of us and let's dedicate ourselves to staying here and running it as a team. And I be part of that team and bring my strength. And then they bring their strength of being able to do the work so that I have a team that can run every aspect of this business. And so he got to work on it. And we started out with like an LLC with a few people, and we were looking at forming this LLC, and then we buy the company from them, and then we continued on. And that didn't work out. That lasted about 3 years, and then 2 of them broke off and started their own business. So we dissolved that. So we had to reconvene and come up with another plan because he didn't want to sell the company, but he did need to be able to cash out somehow his retirement. And then in 2007, that's when we became an ESOP company, and he looked at that plan. Today, we're still 100% ESOP, and that's employee stock ownership program. So that means everybody here earns ownership in the business, and the ESOP owns the business. So Mom and Dad sold Wooldridge Heating and Air to Wooldridge Heating and Air ESOP in 2007. They did an ownership loan. So they loaned us the money to buy the company. So we paid them monthly payment until we bought the business. So the business didn't have to go get a bank loan and go in debt. And it gave them some monthly income too. So in about 2015, so this was implemented in 2007, by 2015, they both started backing out slowly, taking Fridays off and Thursdays off and half a day, and just transitioned out of the company, which stretched us as the next level of leadership, to be on our own some days, make decisions. They weren't here as a correct. And it was a great transition because they just didn't one day pack up and move out. They grew us slowly into the day to day and making decisions and how they handle things. And it worked out really well. And so we still are ESOP right now. The benefits of that is as people retire, the stock come back. And so it's kind of a domino effect. One person leaves, they cash out, then the next person gets those stock. And so it should continue on. And you don't have to pay income taxes each year. So you're able to take that money and reinvest in the stock value and distributions as well.
Yeah. Dana, it sounds like your dad, yourself, and the rest of the team, you built a bridge in terms of this transition. There was no sudden move. Were there any times during that process that, well, I guess what I want to question is, what are some of the biggest obstacles that you faced during that transition and how did you handle them?
Well, it was towards the end where they were gone more than they were here at the office. So if they were gone, say Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, a lot could happen. And so my dad would come in on Monday, and of course, wasn't caught up on what all had happened. So he wanted to kind of reverse some decisions or was making decisions without consulting the second leadership level that had already, made some decisions. And so him and I had a few heated conversations. So on Mondays that, hey, as this transition happens, we have to communicate. So if you come in on Mondays, let's debrief on, what happened while you were out so you understand. Because it was an adjustment for employees. They loved Lester and Tricia. They were go-to people. They'd been here a long time. So it was new to them to have these new faces they were going to. And we were making decisions. And maybe if they didn't like that decision on Thursday or Friday, then they were bypassing us on Monday going to Lester. Sort of like a child. If you don't like what mom says, go to dad kind of thing. Mm-hmm. So then, of course, he didn't know they had already come to me. And so he would do something different. And so then that was not helping with me earning the respect from the employees and validating my decision. So that was one challenge we had to work through. But once we got past that and was like, hey, we've got to be on the same page. You've got to set me up, for success. And if I make the wrong decision, we'll talk it out and we'll get with the employee. But otherwise, you and I have got to work closer together. You can't come in 1 or 2 days and reverse everything that we do. So that was one of the challenges. But once we worked that out, it really worked out great. And like you said, It was a bridge. As he walked across the bridge, he left me there strong and with the respect of the employees, and they were a lot more receptive to it.
Yeah. Dana, I think what you've shared here, a lot of people watching this will benefit from this because there are a lot of HVAC leadership owners who are wanting to transition, but not knowing how to do it in a way that sets up their successors for the greatest success. And I think what your dad did, what you've done, it really gives us a good blueprint of how that can be done in a very smooth way to ensure that, there's continuation.
Yeah. And I know a lot of companies now are entertaining the private equity group and selling their companies. So if that is something they're looking at doing, I would not do the ESOP program because the ESOP program is more of establishing a continuation plan for people there. And if they decide to sell their company, the ESOP has to vote on that. So you bring in a trustee. And so the whole company has to decide whether you're going to sell or not. So the process is a large process and everybody's involved in that. Like I said, the smaller companies that, maybe have some key people, we did try to create that LLC. And I think that's a great program. If you have a couple people in your company, maybe a service manager or, somebody that's strong that could run it and they want to create an LLC with a couple of people and buy them out. I think that's also a great continuation plan if you've got the right people and they've got the credit to do it. But yeah, I think it's very important to have an exit plan way before you plan to exit, at least 5 to 10 years, because it takes a lot of planning. It's a little bit expensive to it. You've got to get it all set up with your lawyers. So it's a lot of, prep work before you actually get out the door. And like you said, again, that building that bridge so you leave everybody successful.
Yeah. Now, Dana, I don't want you to give us any big numbers, but just talk to us about what growth have you seen in your company since yourself and Todd and the rest of the team, you guys have taken over the helm? Kind of talk to us about some of the growth that you've seen in any areas of your company.
Well, in 2015-16, as Lester and Tricia backed out, and of course, I'm going to give a plug for SBE because you guys really saved Todd whenever we transitioned into the leadership company. We've doubled the revenue from 2015 to 2020. We tripled our stock value in ESOP. So the business really took a great turn once the new leadership took over. We implemented the SBE process, allowed our techs to sell. Corey worked with us as a business coach and helped us make some better decisions and pull some triggers and helped us understand our financials. And we looked at them monthly. And we just started running a more efficient business. The one-on-one coaching started growing our employees, making them stronger, more confident in their position. So they were generating revenue. So yeah, we doubled it from 2015 to 2020.
Yeah. Dana, I want to just congratulate you for the success that you've had, the success you and your team have had. And in working together with you, I think you're an awesome leader. I really do. I see how you empower your team. You bring a certain joy to your leadership. And I guess I would like to ask, what's the Dana Marr secret of leadership?
Well, one time I was voted CEO of Lynchburg, best CEO of Lynchburg, and I had to answer a questionnaire. So I took the questionnaire around. I said, they're asking me to describe my leadership style. And I said, I kind of have in my mind what it is, but I want you guys to tell me how you see it. And they said, well, we look at you as firm and fun. When you need to be firm and hold us accountable, we know you're not messing around and we respect you for that. But when we need you, you're there. And you also bring joy to the office and you like to make it a fun place to work. So they said, we feel like you truly care about us, but you will kick us in the butt when we need it and hold us accountable. And that's kind of how I feel. I try to have that balance because you need both. You can't have fun and be nice all the time. But if you're mean and cranky and yell all the time, then that just becomes your style and nobody respects that either. So
yeah, I can definitely see that. So I'm looking forward to that book that you write.
So I try not to pull the firm side, but
yeah, you got to write the Dana Marr Book of Leadership, fun and firm at the same time. I love it. All right.
Right. Yeah.
So Dana, we like to end the podcast with what I call rapid fire questions. All right. What's the best business book or resource that you've read?
Oh, like I said, the John Maxwell 5 Steps of Leadership was one that has just really stuck and gave me the foundation for leadership. The second one was the Chick-fil-A, It's My Pleasure. That's another great little book. And that was one of the largest compliments I got from a customer. They said, your heating and air company is Chick-fil-A of heating and air. So I loved that.
Yeah, that's good. I like that. Okay, good. So if you're watching, listening to this, go get those 2 books. All right. What's one thing that you want to be better at as a leader in the next year?
Releasing responsibility, because we do have our next level of leadership. And so there's things now that my team will ask me a question and I'm like, well, what would you do? Rather than I have to really pump my brakes and not just give them that question because I'm so used to that support and that mentor and just, helping them. And now I'm having to shift gears and start challenging them to make the decision and see what their thoughts are. And so I can mentor and either change their way of thinking or say, yeah, that's it. Go with it.
Love it. Okay. Dana, this is one that I'm sure a lot of leaders want to know, right? What do you do to de-stress when you feel like quitting or when you're having a difficult day? Like, what are the top ways you enjoy life?
Getting outside. I love outside. Honestly, my happy place is on my 0-turn mower and grass.
Really?
I put my noise canceling headphones on, get my music, and we have about 10 acres. We cut grass, and that's where I do my decompressing and my thinking. If we have challenges here, and I laugh because my dad had a Kubota tractor, and he's like, I'm getting on my tractor Friday, and he would call me and say, I got it. We need to do this. I do my best thinking outside on the tractor, so I get that from my dad, but anything outside, just fresh air, sunshine, out of the office, recharges my light bulb.
I love that. That's good. The 0-turn mower. Okay, so we know the secret now. All right.
Makes me feel very powerful.
Yeah. Like, I mean, and no one can reach you. It's totally away from the office. I get it. All right, Dan, here's the last question. If you can go back in time What's one piece of advice you give to yourself when you first became a leader?
Don't worry so much. I worried a lot and lost a lot of sleep over things that I realized it always worked out. Don't let it steal your joy. You'll get the solution. People will help you. We found SBE. They taught us, don't make emotional decisions. Go to your data. So we play both in now. One of our coaching questions was, what's keeping you up at night? And we got to the point where there's nothing keeping us up at night. We've realized you can make it. You're going to get through it. It might be tough, but the solution's there. Don't waste life worrying.
Dana, that's a great way to end this episode. For any leader out there, you may be stressing right now. This advice is great advice. Don't let any of that stuff keep you up at night. Get some rest. So Dana Marr from Wooldridge, thank you so much for being our guest on the Leading HVAC podcast. We wish you much success, continued success in Wooldridge, and enjoy your time on the outdoors as you try that zero-turn lawnmower. And for those of you watching and listening, please make sure you subscribe to this podcast. We have great guests and more great content like this coming your way. Thank you for listening to the Leading HVAC podcast. If you would like to learn more about SBE, you can find us online at sbeodyssey.com. That's sbeodyssey.com. If you enjoyed today's episode, we would appreciate it if you would leave us a review on this podcasting platform. Thank you for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.